What's going on today, YouTube? Rob here. In today's video, I'm coming at you with a Swordsful 10E deck profile. This is the deck that I piloted during the previous remote duel YCS that happened earlier this week, or last weekend. And basically I went 2 and 3. I only played through 5 rounds of Swiss. There was some ups and downs in the tournament, and pretty much by the time we got to round 5, I just decided to call it quits. But this is what I entered the tournament with, and this is what I played. So if you guys enjoy, be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos. And without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. Alright guys, let's get into this 10E Swordsful deck profile I used during the most recent YCS. Starting things off, we have double copies of Incredible Ecclesia. This is a free special summon as long as your opponent controls more monsters than you. And once per turn, you can also tribute this card and special summon a Sword Soul monster or one Fallen of Albaz from your hand or deck. And during the end phase, if a fusion monster or monsters was sent to your graveyard this turn, you can add this from your graveyard to your hand. So, pretty decent starter. Really good recursion card, especially using the DPE engine. Next up though, we have our main Sword Soul starter in triple copies of Moye. So when this is normal or special summoned, you can reveal one Sword Soul card or worm monster from your hand and special summon a Sword Soul token. That's level 4. And while this token is in a monster zone, the player who summoned it cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except synchros, which is fine. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can draw 1 card. You can only use each effect of Moye once per turn. Again, it came up a lot, especially being your main starter. And even though I only played in 5 rounds, this card is really great for being able to start off your combos, and really good to be able to get your Shizao search and then still be able to draw a card and go into blackout. But next up, we have triple copies of Taya. This card can also summon a token, except it's by banishing one Sword Soul or Worm monster from your graveyard. Again, you're locked into synchro summoning as long as the token's on the field. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can send one Sword Soul or Worm monster from your deck to your graveyard. You can only use each effect once per turn. Really good for recursion with your 10E engine. And really good for some level modulations as well. Comes up, and it's decent starter for at least attack. And if you are starting with our next Sword Soul card, or next monster, Longyan, it's actually really good, because if you activate this card and discard any other Sword Soul monster and you have Taya in your hand, you can still normal summon Taya and get its effect as well. So you could theoretically be able to special 2 tokens and 2 synchro monsters, one being a 10, the other being an 8. Get your Shizao search. You could also burn for 1200, and you'll also be able to possibly dump a card into your graveyard for a follow-up. So that's really good. And again, Longyuan is good with the burn aspect, because coming into time, that 1200 might actually work in your favor. Next up, we're going with 2 copies of Ashuna. Again, all the 10E monsters are actually really good in this regard, because you can special summon them from your hand as long as you control a non-effect face-up monster on your field, which would usually be your token. And it's just a good body to get onto the field for your link plays, and it's also good just to have extra bodies. So yeah, it's actually really neat. And then also you can discard your Ashunas to the graveyard to special summon one 10U monster from your deck except Ashuna. So again, not too bad. Works well with your Taya being able to send a card to the graveyard. Next up we have Vishuda, which is probably the more versatile of the 10 spirit monsters for the deck profile. Because if you control no effect monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard and target one card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. So this has a little bit more versatility in being able to deal with your opponent's field and kind of get your play started. Because you can also combine this with our Adhara. This puts you into a level 8 synchro play. And again, as long as you control no effect monsters, you can special summon Adhara from the hand. And if you control a non-effect monster that's face up, you can banish this card from your hand or graveyard and target one banished worm monster except this card and add it to your hand. So again, really good for recursion with your 10U spirit monsters, but can also work in conjunction with Taya because you are banishing something from your graveyard to be able to special summon that token. And with Adhara, you're at least able to try and get it back for more follow-up. Then I run 2 copies of Ash Blossom. This card, I might suggest running at 3, but for me, I ran it at 2, and I didn't see it too much, but I saw it enough that I was actually able to use it. And you know, it actually did kind of help out for one of my rounds because I was playing against an Eldritch player, and I used this once and it stopped his turn pretty much. But yeah, pretty versatile. Then for our last 2 monsters, we have the DPE package. Again, their effects don't necessarily matter. I mean, Celestials does, as long as you have no cards in hand, you get a free draw 2, as long as it's not the turn that this was sent to the graveyard. But I guess Dasher's effect could have come in handy as well. So by tributing one monster, if this card's on the field, it gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. And if it attacks, it's changed to defense. But while this card is in your graveyard, one time only, you can when you draw a monster card, geez, I can't speak, during your draw phase, you can reveal it to your opponent and special summon the card you drew. So again, that could actually go hand in hand with your Moye, because when this card is special summoned, you can reveal and special a token. This can also go basically hand in hand with any of your Sword Soul monsters, as long as you're able to get a token onto the field, because then you can synchro off and get their extra abilities. Again, for some reason, I wasn't really able, or I kept drawing into either Dasher or Celestial, so I wasn't able to go into Verte to be able to resolve its effect to special Phoenix Enforcer, but that's okay. Starting things off with our spells, we have Fusion Destiny. Again, I'm playing 3 because I do play Verte, and again, higher chance of drawing it, which I seem to do quite a lot. So decent way to go into our DPE. The only thing is this locks you into Dark Heroes, but again, that's okay. Doesn't really matter. Then we have 3 copies of Heavenly Dragon Circle to tribute a worm monster and add a worm monster from deck to hand, or if you tributed a non-effect monster, so your tokens basically. You can special summon the card that you drew, or that you search off this card, but you negate its effects. And during your main phase, if you control a face-up non-effect monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard and add one 10U card from your deck to your hand. So again, really good recursion with all your 10U monsters and being able to get more bodies onto the field. Then we have triple copies of Vessel for the Dragon Cycle. To send one worm from deck to graveyard. Then if you control a face-up non-effect monster, so usually your tokens, you can add from your deck to your hand one Tenyi monster with a different name from the monster sent to the graveyard. And the great thing about Vessel is it doesn't specify having to send a Tenyi monster, it just says one worm. So you could send any number of your Sword Soul monsters if need be. And basically, if you have a way to special your Moye from the graveyard, you could dump that and go from there, get a token, and go off into more synchro plays. And for our Swordsful Spells, we have triple copies of Sacred Summit to target a Sword Soul in your graveyard, or target a worm if you control a synchro. And basically, you can just add it to your hand. Special summon it, and then if this card is banished, you can decrease or increase one level on the field to go into different synchro plays. Then we have our Emergence, which lets you add from deck to hand. And same thing, you can increase or decrease a level by 1 until the end of the turn when this card gets banished. And lastly, for these spells, we have the one copy of Called by the Grave. It didn't come up a lot, so maybe you cut it, but it's not too bad in the mirror match, and you know, it's really versatile to have because it is a quick play spell. Moving on to the traps, we have double copies of Blackout. It's searchable, and it's a really good out for any sort of problem cards that your opponent might have. Plus, if it's banished, you can get a token out of this, so again, really good to continue on into higher synchro plays. And lastly, for our main deck, double Impermanence. Again, just another hand trap to add to the deck. And it's also another just generic trap card that can help stop your opponent from doing too many things. And yeah, I guess if I had to change some stuff about this deck in particular, I might change up I might take out one of the blackouts to maybe add a third Ash or a third Imperm, and maybe cut down the Tenyi spells to 2. That way I can, I don't know, play other cards that I might find more impactful. But let's move on to the extra deck, starting things off with Verte. No need to really explain why this is here. I mean, I kind of already did with the Fusion Destiny package. Basically, that's all it's here for, is quick access to DPE. But like I said, I seem to draw into my Fusion Destiny a lot more in opening hand. So Verte didn't really come up. And if it wasn't just Verte or just Fusion Destiny in my hand, I did end up drawing the Dasher and Celestial on more than one occasion. And then I went with 2 copies of Monk of the Tenyi, which just requires 1 non-linked Tenyi monsters. Nothing special about him, he's just a decent extender, and is good to be able to go into my Shaman of the Tenyi, which lets you discard 1 card and target 1 worm in your graveyard and special summon it. Also, for the rest of this turn, you cannot activate effects of monsters special summoned from the extra deck except Tenyi monsters. When an attack is declared involving your face-up non-effect monsters, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy it, and you can only use each effect of Shaman once per turn. It didn't really come up a whole heck of a lot for me. I wasn't actually able to summon it very often. And yeah, I don't know. It just provides some good synergy with the deck, I find, even though I wasn't able to really use it. And then lastly, for our links, I went with Nightmare Unicorn, just to be able to discard and target a card on the field and return it to the deck. That's basically the only reason it's in here. It was either this or Phoenix, and I just decided to go with Unicorn. Nothing to really say more about the card. I mean, it's good for a draw one, I guess, as well. Then we have one copy of Ciaofang. Card didn't come up a lot either, but it's actually really good. It has a lot of synergy with the deck because it is a worm monster, and when it's destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to your graveyard, you can add one tuner from your deck to your hand. And once per turn, when a monster or monsters my opponent controls is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one worm monster from your deck in defense position, whose original attribute is the same attribute as the one destroyed. So again, this actually works really well in conjunction with your Moye. Being able to special summon it and then get a token. The one copy of Dragite, which is your spell and trap negate. That's the only reason it's in here. Plus it's easy to get to, being a level 8 synchro. Then I went with one copy of Ciaofang. Not Ciaofang, Chen, which gains 100 attack and defense, and monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack and defense for each banished card. And if this card would be destroyed by a card effect, you can banish one card from your graveyard instead. And if a card's banished except during damage step, you can banish one card from both your opponent's field and graveyard. You can only use this effect of Sovereign once per turn. You know what? Came up a bit. Came up in a mirror match for sure. You know, it's a decent card. Then we have the one copy of Baron de Fleur. Again, good for a negate and good for a pop, as well as being able to recur your monster. Like, sending this back to your extra deck and recurring a monster to your side of the field is actually really nice. And yeah, I mean, it's just good to go back into plays and extend your combos or disrupt your opponent. So which is why I have it at 1. Then we have the one copy of Framelord Omega. This card is actually really good at recurring cards from your graveyard and your deck, because you can banish both this face-up card from the field and one random card from your opponent's hand face-up until your next standby phase, and once per turn during your opponent's standby phase, you can target one banished card, return it to the graveyard. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other card in the graveyard and shuffle both that card and this card from your deck or from your graveyard into the deck. So just really good at recursion and resource management. Didn't really have it come up a lot, but like I said, I only really played 5 rounds, and yeah, I'll get into more of that later. Then we have the one copy of Ready Rose Dragon to basically just banish all cards from the graveyard. If I had Black Rose Dragon in the deck, or a plant synchro material, I could also wipe the field with this. I didn't actually summon this during the tournament, but it's not too bad. And having its quick effect to be able to tribute this and negate the activation of a card or effect that would destroy a card or cards on my field would be really nice as well. And then being able to, if I played Black Rose Dragon, to be able to special summon that would have been nice as well. But good negation. Then we have one Boxia, good for getting cards off the field, up to 2 depending on which monster we summon the tuner with. Because Moye is a water, but all the tokens you summon are water. So you only really get to do 1 with him. But you get to do 2 with both Longyan and Taya, so that comes in handy. And yeah, I mean, it's really good for tributing itself as well, and being able to special from your own graveyard. And then lastly, for our synchros, we have the 2 Shizao. Again, really good for negating a monster on the field's effects, and it's also your searcher for basically anything Sword Soul related. So that's why I play it at 2. Came up a lot, not just searching for Blackout, but Emergence or Sacred Summit, really. And then lastly, for our extra deck, we have Phoenix Enforcer. I had thought about maybe playing Dragoon instead, but Phoenix Enforcer just provides a little bit more versatility. And being able to have the draw 2 off Celestial is really good, but also having this be a constant recursion by destroying itself and coming back in the standby phase works really well with your Ecclesia. So I played DPE instead of Dragoon. Came up a few times, but let's move on to our side deck, or my side deck for the event. I had 1 Crimson Blader. Didn't come up a lot, or at all. I was really only hoping to use it during the mirror match, but didn't get a chance to summon it. The 1 Protos, I would have put this in my main deck for the event, but I'd entered my deck list already, and was forced to put it in the side deck because I actually had no idea where this card was, so I had to go looking for it. Then I played triple Droll and Lockbird. This came up a few times. Really good way to just be able to either end your opponent's plays by making sure that they can't add from deck to hand, or just kind of stall them, really. So I found it was decently impactful. Double Nib didn't really come up, but it's always a threat. And I mean, hey, what are you gonna do when someone slaps 5 monsters on the field and you have Nibiru? Then I went triple Dark Ruler No More to be able to negate all the effects on the field for at least a turn, just to be able to stall if need be. If I ran into anything troublesome, if I ran into like DPE or I ran into a Dragoon, I could at least negate its effects for a turn and actually be able to do something. Oddly enough, even though I sided in all 3 at one point, I wasn't able to draw into them at all. And then, just because I wasn't sure what decks I was gonna have to play against, sided in triple Twin Twisters and Harpy's Feather Duster. I did play around against an Eldritch player, and after the first game, I sided in all 4 of these cards. Didn't end up seeing them, which kind of sucked, but it could have come in handy. Came in handy a little bit against the mirror match, the Swordsful Tenyi mirror match, but again, decent cards to have. And lastly, Imperial Order. I know a lot of people hate this card, but you know what? Even though it removes a game mechanic, it's still a blowout card, so kind of hard not to put it into the side deck. Didn't end up drawing it or being able to use it, but the threat of having it is always there. And yeah, that's basically it for the extra deck and this Swordsful Tenyi deck profile. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos. If there's anything that I would like to change about this deck, I don't really know entirely what it would be. It would probably be more of the side deck options. I think I would main deck Protos for sure. Not really sure what I would cut out. Maybe, I don't know, maybe an Imperm, or maybe one of the other Tenyi cards that I didn't really use. The side deck I might change a little bit more to combat the meta, but other than that, I think that this deck is really well built and can go really far depending on who's piloting the deck. We'll have to see what happens on the next ban list, but I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, be sure to comment, be sure to subscribe for more fun Yu-Gi-Oh videos, and I will catch you in the next one. That's game.